Hey guys, it's been a long time, and I'm going to explain why in this video. It is a testimony of God's goodness in my life as to what He's done over this past year, and I'm going to explain that. And it kind of starts off where my testimony video left off on my channel. You can go find it. It's one of the first videos I made. During that time, when I gave my life to Jesus, I felt like I'd go anywhere and do anything for Him. You know, I had a fire for Him. And as I explained in the video, I received, on top of the blessings that I already had, I received even more. And about a year ago, I started to realize that I was putting those blessings above God in a way. I started to feel like I didn't have that fire for God that I used to. And I asked God every day last summer, I asked Him, I want that fire back. You know, I want that feeling that I'd go anywhere, do anything for you, Jesus. And I just felt like I didn't have it. And I really just found my comfort in my blessings, and I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't do anything for Jesus anymore because I felt like I had what I needed. You know, I was living comfortably, and that's all I wanted. And that fire for God just started to fade as I just loved on my blessings more and more above God. And I made plans, to just stay where I was at, When you feel like you have all that you need, in a worldly sense, then you don't want to go anywhere, You don't need to leave anywhere. You have it. And I felt that way. I felt like I had it, I felt like I was at my end goal. I was like, okay, this is it. That was my plan. And all of a sudden, my whole life changed. A lot of those blessings that I had were gone as I was heading into my first year of college. A time when all my plans changed. And a lot of friends went to college, and I just felt alone. And much different than before. I was living on top of the world, I felt like. My life felt so perfect. And all of a sudden, I was at my lowest point. Because I put so many things, so many of these blessings, in God's place. And I found myself, once some of those things were gone, I found myself in a place where I felt like I didn't have anything. Because when you put things above God, your world's going to crumble down because your firm foundation, Jesus, is being pushed aside, and you're bringing in things that are going to crumble down, things that won't last forever. That's what happens when you put blessings. That's what happens when you put anything above God. That's why our firm foundation has to be Jesus. And I was not putting God above all else in my life. So when my world fell apart, I was very broken, and I was living in shame because I realized what I had done. I realized that, oh my gosh, I was putting so many things above God. I was putting myself first, my plans first. Not giving God control over my life because I was so happy, and my life just felt perfect. So when my world fell apart, I was just full of anger and shame, and I felt broken. I cried out to the Lord all the time. I said all the time, I was like, Lord, I wanted a fire for you again. I wanted a fire again for you. And Lord, I felt like you're just tearing me apart. You know, I didn't understand why things were being taken away from me. I didn't understand why I felt so alone. And I didn't seek any help. I held this all inside. Nobody knew. Nobody knew that I was struggling. And I just wrestled with this. And I would go to God and I'd ask for forgiveness. I felt so shameful of everything that I had done, for not being obedient, for not trusting in Him. And I also felt shameful because I would go to God in anger, getting upset at Him. I felt the shame of that. There would be some days where I would just, fall down and just cry out to Him, just asking for Him to help me. There would be other days where I'm completely angry at Him. Just so confused. And then the next day, I would ask for forgiveness and I'd go to God. God, I'm so sorry for what I've done. Please forgive me. And then I just repeat the process each day. And also during this time, my habits were not good. I started to lose that fire for God more and more. And I had a habit of reading my Bible. I would always read my Bible every single day. And all of a sudden, it became a huge chore. It just became each and every day. I guess I gotta read my Bible. That's how it was, every single day. And then I'd go to God in prayer and I would just let Him have it, so angry. And then the next day I'd go to Him and just beg for forgiveness. And I was just hanging on to Jesus by a thread. Like I said, my habits were not good, struggled to read the Bible with joy of the Lord. Struggled to have physical habits. Every day I would eat out, fast food every day. It would be breakfast, lunch, and dinner fast food. Fast food every day. No working out. And I had a lot of schoolwork and I never really did it. I'll be honest, I never really did it. I would usually go out and get angry at God, just playing video games, or fast food. That was my life. That's what I did. And my physical health got so much worse every day. Just eating so unhealthy, and not doing anything about it. And I didn't talk to anyone about this ever. I never did. Until one time, there was one night where I finally went to my parents. And this night changed my life. I finally talked to my parents, cried out, and just told them everything going on with me, how broken I felt. And how hurt I was. And they helped me so much. They helped me to seek the Lord more and more, and to stand firm in the faith, and to know that Jesus is with me in the fire. That night, my parents said to me, basically, you got to get out of here. And that was something that I didn't want to do. I never wanted to leave my home. I am from Nashville, Tennessee, and I never wanted to leave there. I wanted my old life back. I wanted to be there forever, basically, and live the life that I had with all of those blessings that I had before. I wanted that back. And that's why I was so angry at God all the time. I wanted that back. And when my parents told me that, I realized that I didn't have my heart open. I realized that I wasn't being obedient to God and listening to Him, even in my pain. I would cry out to Him in anger and pain, and I'd always ask Him, why can't I have this life? Why can't I have the life that I had? And I never listened to Him. But the truth is, I realized in this moment that my parents were telling me, I gotta leave. That I gotta get out of here, I realized in that moment that that's what the Lord was telling me to do. The whole time. And I wasn't open to it. The Lord was telling me the whole time that there's so much more. You had plans. This is what the Lord was telling me. He was saying you had plans, but I direct your steps. That's what He was telling me. And I felt like my heart was finally open in that moment. I went to bed that night. I was like, God, I know what you're telling me now. I know what you're doing. And I heard Him in that moment. As I was crying out to Him, going to bed that night, realizing what He was doing. He was telling me there is so much more that you don't even know yet. You don't even know why. But He was telling me to just trust Him. And after that night, my life completely changed. Completely changed. That night, I asked Him. I said, okay, God, I see what you're asking me to do. Please give me a fresh wind. Give me a fresh wind, God. And I know you're going to do it. I said, God, thank you. Thank you for being faithful even when I'm not. Thank you for loving me even when I don't even love myself. Because He really was. He really was. And He had a plan. He had a plan. That night changed my life. I became honest with my parents. I opened up. As a Christian, we have to open up. Don't live in fear of not telling people. Open up to people. Tell them what you're going through. I opened up to my parents. And that night, I finally felt the Lord telling me what to do. So open up. After that night, my life changed. I started to be obedient. Changed all my habits. Spiritual, physical. I realized I saw what my parents were doing. My mom and dad both wake up every morning and get in the Word. They get a black coffee and they get in the Word of God. Prayer. Reading Bible, journaling. And I saw that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make this a habit for me. I'm going to get up every morning. And I wasn't used to that. Usually in the morning, I struggle to read. I just don't want to. I'm too tired. So this was a big one for me, actually. I'm used to reading my Bible at night. I said, you know what? I'm going to wake up. I'm going to change my entire day. So I decided every morning I would get up. I'm going to read my Bible, pray, journal, and I'm going to have a black coffee with it. And so I did that. Moving forward every single morning. That's my spiritual habit. Changed my life. That's how I started my day, every day, and it changed my life. And my dad says this too. You start with spiritual, and then when you do that, see how you can apply that discipline to the rest of your life, to all the other things you do in the day. So I took that spiritual habit of reading my Bible, praying, journaling in the morning, and I thought, what if I use this for everything I do? So I started the discipline of working out every day. After I did my spiritual habit of praying, reading my Bible, and journaling, I would go work out, very intense workouts that I still do today. Changed my life again. That's two things, spiritual and physical habits, that completely changed everything for me. And of course, when you do that, you have to cut out the 3 fast food places that you have during the day. So I cut out the fast food that I was spending so much money on. And so now I had to keep this up. How was I able to keep this up? I went to the Lord every morning and I prayed for strength and to just trust in Him. And I felt the Lord telling me every day, just find rest in me. Find your rest in me. I will give you the strength to do this. So every day, when I would get up, I felt as if I had strength to do it. And the Lord would wake me up every day, and I was able to do these habits. And it was hard at first. It was very hard. But eventually got to the point, maybe a month or 2 in, where I was just so excited to do it. I was so excited to get up and have these habits in place. You know, the Lord was just breaking chains every single day. And my life, my daily lifestyle, completely changed. Completely changed. This is all after I opened my heart to God. That one night where I became honest with my parents. And I felt God speaking to me saying there is so much more. And I opened my heart to what He had for me. And when you walk in obedience, watch how the Lord works. Watch how He works. It is amazing. It is a testimony. It's His goodness. My life completely changed, spiritually and physically. God led me to a camp in Michigan, very far from home, very much out of my comfort zone. Because when I opened my heart to God, I realized that I have to step out of my comfort zone. I can't live comfortably anymore. Not the way I was living. And I went to Michigan. I went to Michigan for about a month and preached the gospel to kids. That's what I did for my summer. And it was an amazing time for me to experience the Lord in so many new ways and help these kids also experience the Lord. And it was so amazing to see how God worked. It was incredible. And I felt that fire for God. I have that fire for God that I asked for. Full circle moment. I asked God for that fire that I felt as if I had lost. And God brought me through a season where I felt like I had nothing left, where I was just angry. I just felt pain. God brought me through that season. And I opened my heart to Him. And here God comes with so many more blessings that I didn't even know existed. Bringing me to a camp where I can share the gospel. Giving me these spiritual and physical habits daily habits that help me to seek him better, to love him with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. God did it. God did that. And after this camp that I went to, where I experienced the Lord in so many ways, seeing his goodness and his love for all of us, after that time, God brought me to Moody Bible Institute, where I am now, which this is my room. God brought me here. And if you don't know, in my testimony video, I share that I felt God calling me to ministry. And during this season of my life, this past season where I was sorrowful and full of pain and anger, in that season, I started to think that maybe God isn't calling me to ministry, because here I am alone and broken. And then all of a sudden, here I am. Here I am at Moody Bible Institute, learning about God, seeking him more every day, in a community of believers where we all come together and experience God and love him and seek after him. That's what we're here to do, and we're here to share God's word and Jesus with the world. That's what I'm learning here. God brought me here. The night that I became honest with my parents about what I was dealing with before was the night that I felt God calling me to Moody Bible Institute. I didn't mention that before. But that night I envisioned me making this video. I literally saw it. I said, God, I see what you want. You know, I see what you're doing now. And here I am, literally making this video, talking about how I have that fire for God again. Talking about how the Lord has brought me through. The Lord has brought me through the fire and all the storms. God did it. And he can do it for you too. Are you willing to trust him and be obedient to him and open your heart to him? He's got good plans. Open your heart to it and be obedient. And honestly, like, there is so much that God has taught me in this past year alone. There's so much. And I would like to share that with you guys more and more. And so I'm planning on making videos weekly. I'm planning on being on social media, making these videos to tell you the testimony of God's goodness in my life and to grow in community with other believers. And so that's what I'm going to do. The Lord has changed my life. The Lord has changed my daily lifestyle. He's brought discipline to my life, to be obedient to him, to trust him more, to find rest in him. Jesus is the only place we can find true rest. And the Lord has taught me that during this time, even in the fire, even in the storms. God is there with us in it, and he's going to lead us out of it. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. And I will see you guys next time. So, peace.